Former SU and NFL quarterback Don McPherson now joins Gomez and Company thanks to Fellman Brothers Automotive on TK99 and TK105, the flagship station of Syracuse Orange football.
Donnie Mac, Don McPherson. Good morning, Don.
Good morning, Gomez. How you doing, sir?
Good. What was the highlight of your weekend?
The highlight of the weekend was there was a slate of very boring football games in college football, but they turned out to be an entertaining day.
You're right. I mean, there was, one of those weekends, it was kind of old school. Like I remember in the 80s, you'd see scores, like whoever would win games like 63-0 and 72-7 and whatever. And there were a few of those this past weekend.
Yeah, and it was just a few. And the one thing I noticed about college football, and a lot of people are speculating what it would look like with transfer portal and would there be more parity. I don't see any great teams. There's a lot of talent on the field across the board, a lot of great players out there. The players are bigger, stronger, faster than ever, but not many great teams. And I thought that, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. It played really tough and competitive against Georgia. And all the games were kind of, obviously, the blowouts, when FBS and FCS are playing, but a lot of parity and a lot of evenness. No one's really standing out like as a dominant football team, which is kind of interesting.
And along those lines, look at Florida State now at 0-3. They started the season ranked 10th in the country with a lot of hope. And lo and behold, now I think we wish we had them on the schedule.
Yeah, exactly. And they're losing to unranked teams as well. So it's not even like they've had a really competitive schedule. They really have not had, in hindsight, a really strong schedule, and there they are 0-3. So yeah, exactly. That also speaks to, if you're SU and you're sitting back and watching the rest of the conference this weekend, you're seeing great opportunity, but you're also seeing what essentially will become strength of schedule will be against later on in the season. But right now, the conference is pretty wide open.
On to the game on Friday night. And just in general, Don, how many non-Saturday games when you were playing at Syracuse did you play? I don't think there were as many back in the day, but I mean now it's like every week they're playing Thursday, Friday, Saturday. How many Thursday and or Friday games did you play? Never
a Thursday game. Maybe a Friday game, but I don't think I ever played a Friday. It's just so funny the way that college football is nowadays. When I try to think back, Gomez, you remember the last game that I played in the Dome was against West Virginia. I believe that was a Saturday night.
Yes, it was.
And we were undefeated going to the Sugar Bowl, and that game was not televised.
Isn't that amazing? You know what? And that was the Michael Owens for two. That was Donnie, and people ask me that because we talk about it all the time. The loudest of the events that I've ever been to in the Dome, and there was the Syracuse Georgetown basketball game where the Georgetown coach. John got thrown out of the game, got tossed. Yep. But that game, the win over West Virginia, with Michael Owens running in for two, was, I think, the number one loudest I've ever heard the Dome.
That's what I've heard. I don't.
Is there video of it somewhere?
There's video of it. Lisa, this is what happened, and this is there's a long funny story that involves Pete Rose later on with me. But West Virginia, it was on television in West Virginia, and ESPN picked up the last minute and a half because West Virginia just scored, and they were up by a touchdown with a minute left, and the West Virginia station picked up had the game, and so they played the last 90 seconds was on that national television.
And that was it.
Wow.
And then where's the Pete Rose thing come in?
So 2 days later, this is a silly story. 2 days later, I'm at Churchill Downs for the first ever John Unitas Award, and I'm with my family, my parents, and my brother. And we walk finished. What? And this guy's coming storming over to say how excited he was about the win. And it was Pete Rose.
Wow.
And my father, who's a bigger fan of Pete Rose than of me at the time, was beside himself. And he said, like, how does Pete Rose know who you are? And I kept saying, come on, Pop, it's me. You know, I'm a big deal. And lo and behold, that was about a year before Pete got popped for gambling. And my father calls me and goes, that's how he knew who you were. He had money on that game.
He's probably right.
He's probably right.
Boatload of money.
Right, some money. I mean, I don't think we were favored by much. We were undefeated. It was, it was probably a good straight up,
Yeah.
I don't know gambling speak, but it was probably, Syracuse straight up.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Talking to Don McPherson, here's our Monday morning quarterback. On to the game Friday night. Stanford coming to the Dome, and first time meeting between the Syracuse and the Stanford Tree, which I'm looking forward to seeing their mascot there, Donnie. But is this one of the kind of games, as you mentioned at the start, there's so much parity that Syracuse and teams like the Orange have to kind of watch out for when teams like Stanford come to play?
They really do, because there's no incentive in this game. Even though you have some players, on this squad because of transfer that may have run into Stanford down the line, there's no connections. There's no rivalry. There's nothing to get fired up about. We know very little about them. Once again, Lisa, to your point about there being no video, name one Stanford football player. Name the last time you saw a Stanford game here on the East Coast. They haven't been very good. So you just don't know. There's nothing to get kids fired up for, get the fans fired up for. So it's a lot of unknowns, and that's what you have to be wary about. But I think that we talked about this last week with the bye week. Fran Brown's biggest job was, one, to clean up special teams as a head coach. That's usually the head coach's job, and two, keep that level of intensity up. Because you're going to have to manufacture some of those incentives that don't exist when you're playing a known opponent.
I know during the bye week, Don, there were a lot of videos floating around on social media and on the web about Coach Fran having a team out doing a lot of community service stuff this weekend, cleaning up neighborhoods, helping out and volunteering, and that kind of speaks to who he is and how he's having an impact here in his community.
Yeah, it's great to see. It's great to see that. It's great to see the things that he's doing, not just for his team, but for the community. And that's what he said he'd do. And he's put his money where his mouth is. And that's really awesome to see.
Well, we'll wait and see. It's a Friday night kickoff at 7:30, Syracuse and Stanford. And from the NFL, Don, did you watch much of it this weekend? Did you catch any NFL yesterday?
I don't watch much NFL. I haven't watched much NFL over the past many years, but I did see a little bit of the game last night. I didn't really pay attention, except I saw kickoff and forgot about the new rules, and the NFL is it's almost unrecognizable to me these days.
True. Hey, Donnie, thanks. Great stuff as always. We'll update again and catch up next week, and hopefully another win to talk about for Coach Fran Brown and the team.